Hi, and welcome to my final project. What I chose for my final project was to mimic an electronic handheld game called Simon that was popularized in the 1970s. Basically, it's a short term memory game where you repeat the patterns based on button presses and sounds. Let me give you a demonstration. I think it's easier to understand. So I've got the App Inventor pulled up here as well as an emulator of my iPhone. So the user will be presented with this screen, and the first thing they will do is press play. When they press play, one of the blocks will play and a beep will be shown, and then the play button will be disabled, and they will click that button. If they click the right color and the right sound plays, then they go to the next level. They click play again, and the level increases by one. Click play again, and it increases by one again, so on and so forth. And the pattern is randomized. We'll show that when we get to the blocks in the blocks editor. And if you don't do it right, you lose and the level is reset to one. Finally, you can also choose to reset the level at any time you wish. What you're provided with, along with the video, is an AIA starter file, which will contain all of the components you need and the layout pre-configured. In addition, you'll be provided with a written tutorial which describes the component, describes the game, and tells you how long, not really how long, but it tells you kind of what to do step by step. So that's just kind of the beginning screen, which we went over quite a bit. We've got a number of different variables that we want to keep track of. 3 different lists, 2 that are initially empty, the computer play number order and computer sounds, and then one that is fully populated and pretty static, but it's very useful, the sound list, which contains the MP3s for all of the different sounds that Simon makes. Finally, and we also have 3 other global variables that will help us kind of keep track of which sound is being played, which items are on at this current time, and the index, and then which level the game is at. So those are all initialized to 1. What I like to do most of the time when I create apps is make sure that I control what happens on the screen every time it's initialized, just kind of resets everything. In this case, there's a couple times where we want to sort of reinitialize everything. So I created a procedure which basically takes 2 pieces of information, the level number that you want to start at, and then also the information that you want to notify the user about. So initially, let's play and set it to level 1. And this just kind of double checks and makes sure everything's set. But I kind of like that it's easier to put into there. So by doing a procedure now, I can do the same thing with the reset button. And I can also call the same procedure if the user loses, just give them a little different message. So the first procedure that we need to create is sort of the heart of what happens when the computer is generating sounds and starts the first sound being played. And it's just called comp sound. We basically generate a random number from 1 to 4, level or round number of times, and we add the items to 2 parallel lists, the computer sounds, which are actually the names of the sound files, and then the numbers. A little bit easier, I think, to keep track of the numbers than the names, but there's a lot of different ways that you could go about tackling that particular aspect. Finally, we set the player source to the first number in the computer sounds, set the global number, the sound number to 1. We show beep, which is what you saw, the text base beep, and we call the player start. And so the show beep is a pretty simple procedure, which is basically based on the number you give it, puts the text beep on display. So it gives you kind of a visual clue or cue, as well as the audio, the sounds. Each of the sounds are different. Once the player 1 has stopped, we want to play the next sound. So we're going to increment the sound number, hide the beep, and we'll look at the simple hide the beep procedure in a second. We'll double check that the sound number is still within the length of the list. We don't want to go out of bounds. There's only so many times we want to play. And if it's within the length, we set it to the new source, show the beep, and call the player. Once we've reached the end of the list, and this comparison and this if statement, this conditional, is false, then we're going to set the play button to tell the user it's your turn to play notes, and we're going to disable the play button so they can't accidentally start the computer playing again or listen to it 4 more times. And the hide the beep just resets all the text to blank texts. So all 4 buttons are basically identical. They're going to set the source to their corresponding sound, click set the timer to enable, and we'll look at the clock timer and what that does, set their beep, and then call the check num procedure to make sure they played the right sound. And so once the clock timer fires, it's going to play the sound. We're going to disable the timer so that the sound only plays once, and then we're going to hide the beep. So what happens in the check num procedure? Well, we're going to make sure that there are computers and numbers to play. And then if there are, we're going to see if they played the right one. 2 things can happen if they played the right one. If it's the right one and it's the last one, we say you win and we increase the global level. If it's the right one and they don't win, and they haven't finished the list, then we increase the index. So we want to look at the next item in the computer sound list. Finally, if they click the wrong button, then we tell them that they lose, and we basically reinitialize the game and they can start over. So I hope you enjoyed this brief introduction to the Simon app that was created, and enjoy the game.